What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we want to let you know that we'll be donating 100% of our sales and donations at CrazyFaceUno.com, that's CrazyFaceUno.com, to the World Central Kitchen, founded by Chef Jose Andres. If you have not heard of the World Central Kitchen or Jose Andres, please check them out and learn more about the amazing work they are doing around the world. Together is how we defeat this invisible enemy. With that said, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today. Please welcome Noah Manning. Welcome, Noah.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here with you, man, and get a chance to catch up. Thanks for inviting me to connect.
Absolutely. We, I don't know, last week, you've got something fun you and your wife and have been doing at home, and we're going to chat about that a little bit and just talk about life. And you've been on the podcast before, so if you're see the name Noah Manning and you're like, oh, that sounds familiar, go check it out or go give it a listen if you haven't. We used to work together at Invisible Children in San Diego, and both moving on with our lives and different places in the world on the complete opposite ends of the coast. You're in California and I am in Florida, and we're riding out this COVID-19 craziness together.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's pretty crazy what's going on. I mean, it's
I know,
something I don't think any of us have ever experienced, and man, still I know every day I'm still kind of making sense of it as we get more information, but yeah, man, I'm grateful that we get a chance to catch up. I think that's one of the blessings of all this is like having more time to, reach out to people that I love and get a chance to, check in. And so, yeah, bro, I'm excited to connect and talk with you.
Absolutely. Likewise. I'm looking forward to it as well. Before we kind of dive into some of the stuff that we're planning to talk about, I guess, what's your take? I mean, I know neither one of us are health professionals or, government leaders with the inside scoop, but what are your feelings? How has this affected you, your life with real estate and work and business, and how are you feeling about everything?
Yeah, so I mean it's a powerful question.
Yeah, it's a little loaded. Sorry.
Totally. No, it's good. It's good. I appreciate it. I think like I feel like two levels that I'll kind of answer.
Yeah.
From a bigger picture lens, I feel like there's a trust in the intelligence of life and that there's a larger plan unfolding that it has been on the precipice for like many years. At least I've had a sense for maybe the last 10 years that like we were in this transitioning process of finding a more sustainable way to live our lives that is more in tune with, with the earth and with each other. And so that I think is happening. And obviously when change happens, I think it can be really difficult. And then this lens in no way takes away from like how, this has already caused loss to people. Yeah. And there'll probably likely be a lot more. But I think that's the frame that I'm doing my best to hold is that like, okay, the Earth's kind of going through a shift. Then on a personal level, I mean, I'm going from, enjoying family time, like having more downtime to freaking out about the unknown of it all.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So I think it's, yeah, it's an exciting time in some ways.
Yeah.
In that we have a new opportunity in front of us, and it's also scary.
Yeah. Man, I that last, all of it, I second all of what you're saying. Just makes me think about several different things. But that last little bit where you're talking about, there's a buzz, right? There's this energy around even talking about it. You can't enter into a conversation without really kind of addressing it or talking about it. I feel like even,
Yeah.
I mean, my wife and I'm sure you and your wife have probably had multiple conversations every day, just kind of sneaks in on you. You hear a little bit or a little piece of information or a news headline or, uh, something, and it kind of sparks that conversation. And, in the midst of even, talking to you and talking to some of my other friends and whatnot, it's something that we continually talk about and kind of brings up. So it's like very much this like buzz around it, that excitement. And I think it's interesting what you said with there being an excitement. I guess with like the unknown, right? It is this.
Yeah.
We have been working towards this precipice, and I totally, when you said that, it really made me go like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. Like, I didn't see it in the grander picture, kind of like you laid out there, but originally and maybe until now, but I feel the same way. We've gone through so much as a country,
Yeah.
and I feel like we've reached this. It feels like a point of no return, as a country especially, and just as a world, is kind of divided, and it's like at each other's throats, and polarized, and I don't know, gross in so many ways. And I tell you what's made me more bummed than anything, in political views aside, it's the both sides of the aisle, right? Pointing the finger and politicizing things, and in a time that doesn't need to be politicized. And
Yeah.
there's a fine line between kind of holding each other accountable, and but also saying like this is a time to unify and to come together and to put our differences aside, and to communicate and to talk like human beings and like adults, and instead of like children pointing the finger and mad because somebody stole your toy or didn't give you what you want. And so this is both to our political individuals and to people I know, my friends. Like, it bums me out. Like, it honestly pisses me off when I see people posting an article or posting a comment about, whatever it is, one side or the other, about, well, they did this and they did this and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's like, that's not the point. We need to be encouraging our lawmakers, our politicians, to do what we want them to do, and instead of this like point the finger at them and shake it, because you're not giving them direction as to what your political, what your will is as a human being and as a citizen, or as a participant in this country and in this world. And yeah, I don't know, that really bums me out and really makes me sad to see. And I think this is a time that we can capitalize on setting aside our differences and find the things that we want and the things that we need and the things that are important.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I think that's a very, very good point, and I can understand how it would be, it's hard for you to see that going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes me, as you were talking about it makes me think of like a marriage, right? Like, or any relationship really. Like if there's people are at odds with each other, then that will escalate to the point of there being like either a separation or there's like an exhaustion from the like fighting, and there's a willingness to collaborate and to be vulnerable, both people, and my sense is, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. And at the same time, I think like, these folks that are making political decisions and are in political positions, like, are serving at a very high level, and with a lot on the line and a lot of pressure, and they're almost the like face of the polarity that we are collectively bringing to the table, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I feel like in a way it doesn't excuse them not showing up in integrity.
Absolutely.
And leading, you know, but it does also, even Trump, who I have a lot of, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the ways he leads and
yep.
you know, can go on and on about criticizing him, but it's like, dude, he's been put in a really difficult position, and that doesn't mean like to disregard the ways he's making bad decisions
totally.
Or being an idiot, but totally. It's like, whoa, like we're all, I feel like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, how do I bring compassion to the fact that these people are in a challenging position and do my best to hold them accountable without just getting caught in the drama that doesn't serve anyone? Because I feel
right.
like that's oftentimes a trap with all of this stuff. Like, you know, like we can be watching the news and not suggesting that you're doing this. It sounds like you're holding it, you know, really well. But like, I think that's something I'm watching out for, is that I don't just get sucked into the vortex of those polarities. You know?
I had to pull myself out of I had to pull myself out of some of the news stuff and all that. Just like, it's just too much. But on that same note, I think what's, at least for me, and I don't know what the rest of the world feels, but for me, like I find myself, you know, I really try to keep politics out of this podcast, and but it is what it is. I'm with you, Noah. There's a lot of things that President Trump says, you know, actions that I just don't agree with. But I find myself in the midst of this like chaos looking for a leader and wanting that leadership. And I don't care who it comes from. Unfortunately, it's just hard to know where to go to and where to trust. And I think that's some of the issue and some of the problems. But I find myself in this situation with COVID-19 and with, like you said, these leaders are making, all of our leaders, you know, across the world are making monumental decisions that affect each and every one of our lives in very real, very, potentially very devastating ways, right? And, you know, and it's important. Again, I 100% agree. It's 100% to hold them with integrity and to hold them accountable for their actions. I think the way we go about doing that needs to change versus the way we've always done it and the way we've done it in the last, you know, many years. For me, it's just, I find myself really wanting a leader. I really want a leader. I want someone to step up and go like, hey, this is what's happening. And I want to have that confidence. I want that. That's what I want. And I don't feel that.
Okay, so let me help you with that. All right.
Yeah.
Where are you right now? Are you close to a mirror?
Yeah, I can turn around a little bit and kind of look into the
turn around
mirror.
And look in the mirror. And then I want you to say to yourself, I am the leader that I've been looking for.
Man, Noah, you always have a way. I am the leader I'm looking for. I wrote it down.
What was that like for you?
What was that like for me?
What did you notice as you did that?
A few different things. I feel like my first reaction is like I smiled.
Nice.
I think the second, you know, maybe reaction or the first reaction from my brain is kind of imposter syndrome. I don't believe it necessarily, you know, if I'm going to be pretty honest and straightforward. But I can tell you this because it kind of slapped me in the face a little bit. I didn't see that one coming, and I know this feeling. I know how I feel about what you just told me, and I know that it's going to stick with me, and it's something that I'm going to process for a while now. And yeah.
Awesome. I love your willingness to experiment. And I mean, I am with you. And that, like, I love and honor your desire to have people step up with integrity and with confidence, and hopefully more and more people will rise in that way, especially within the political system. Because you're right, they do have a lot of leverage, right? They are making big decisions on our behalf.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have a sense that regardless of how all this plays out politically, the next wave of our culture is like the more of us that step into and actually claim, which we don't need anyone to give us permission. The only one we need permission from is ourselves. And we claim our own leadership, and we claim our own voices, and we allow ourselves to speak from our hearts the truth that we all know inside. That, to me, is where the power lies and what will actually bring about the most change, because we've been playing a game that hasn't been working with this top-down system. And no matter what happens with the system, it's like if we can own that leadership, it will have an impact. Right. And I struggle with it myself too, brother. Like, I have my own doubts and fears, and I'm going through that as we speak. And actually doing this whole T-shirt thing that we're going to talk about was a big, like, opportunity for me to, like, or it was a way for me to explore those and really face those head on, because I feel that call to leadership, you know, in whatever way I can within my little slice of the world.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, and this is like, this is the piece I think that I think about, or like who am I? You know, and I know, like, you can answer this in a lot of different ways, you know, and I know all the rebuttals to it, and like, well, who are you not to? You know, like all those different ideas or thoughts, but who am I? You know, and like what is my value? That's a little more complex, because I know, I understand my value, if that makes sense, but also just like, I don't know, like there are, why does my, I don't know how to really unpack this, sorry, but like, my,
no, I'm curious.
Yeah, like my voice in some way, like what is, you know, I have this platform, and I feel the same way that you know, we haven't got into it yet, but your T-shirts and the videos you've been making, you know, I feel that same way with the podcast. You know, like, it is an opportunity, it's a platform, it's an opportunity for me to share my thoughts and my feelings. But what are my thoughts and feelings? They're just Shane McNeely's thoughts and feelings, and who am I not to? Sure, why? Obviously, I find that I have some sort of voice within this arena or space because I continue to do it. But at the same time, like, you know, where do I fit into that whole idea, or why would somebody want to listen to me? What do I bring to the table? I think is something that I've been wrestling with for a while. You know, just even in the creation of CrazyFaceUno, and in this of who am I? You know, like,
totally. And I mean, that's an awesome question to be living.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what's really powerful about you going on this journey with the podcast. Mm-hmm. Is I think, like, the more we put ourselves in positions to share our truth, the more we learn who we are. And, you know, just like, because I feel like I know the familiar ways that I am. Yes. But when I'm willing to push through those familiar edges and step into new territory, that is that excitement. I mean, that's my interpretation of the excitement you were talking about earlier on, and that's also uncomfortable. You know, it's a muscle to grow. And like, but I learned, like, this video thing I did, the t-shirts, I learned a lot more about myself than I think, I shared. And that's like the cool part is like, whoa, I was my biggest learner.
Yeah.
Whether or not other people learned anything, that's, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, why don't you kind of talk us through where the idea came from and kind of what you've been up to?
Yeah, so, I had an idea actually like a few years ago to get a bunch of t-shirts with inspirational quotes and different positive messages and just wear them. And, I'm in real estate. I'm a real estate agent, and I just thought it would be fun in my business to, like, rock these different shirts that have positive messages on them. And I didn't get them for years because I just found reasons, like,
sure.
That way you use the voice like the imposter. I was just like, you know what? Like, that's not, people are going to probably, like, make fun of me or, like, judge me, and I just don't, I'll do it tomorrow. And that just got pushed on. Before this, like, shelter in place in the Bay Area took place, I just bought the shirts. I was feeling inspired to buy them.
Yeah.
And then once shelter in place started, a few days later they arrived, and I was just like, oh man, this is kind of strange timing.
Yeah.
And I've actually been wanting to make more video, more so for my business than for, like, sharing personal thoughts or feeling, whatever.
Yeah.
But something strong came through, like, on the first day of the first video, and I was just like, dude, I'm going to share a video about how I'm feeling about this whole situation and wear this first shirt. And the idea behind the shirts was, like, if I can wear these positive messages during a time of big changes and uncertainty, like, it will help me stay grounded, because all I have to do is look down and see something like that's kind of anchoring.
Yeah.
And then I can also share some thoughts with other people through the videos.
Yeah.
And see how they, just, it felt like an impulse that just wanted to come through. So that's how it started. And, obviously the journey unfolded from there, which, maybe we can talk about a little more, but I'll kind of stop there in response to your question.
Yeah. I love it. It's also like an accountability piece, right? I mean, I noticed this for myself. This is me, and integrity within everything I do is really important to me. And having that integrity with CrazyFaceUno, with the business, what I say, I ask a lot of questions on the podcast, and one of the questions is, I've been kind of sporadic about it, but I started asking people, like, what are 3 words you would use to describe you? And I think integrity would be one that I really want, that, or like what legacy wise of, like, what do you want your legacy to be? I want people to look back and be like, man, he held his head high, I mean, he was full of integrity. He did what he said and said what he did. And, I don't know. I think that's a really huge
awesome,
piece, and, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. And whenever you start posting your thoughts and feelings and your voice out into the world instantly, for me at least, I was like, oh, okay, I feel really vulnerable, But it's also this, like, hey, I said you got to treat people with kindness and be kind, like, I gotta live that out, and I don't know.
That's awesome.
It kind of makes you reflect a little bit more and think about your actions.
Oh, that's cool, man. I dig the accountability. I think I hadn't actually thought of it that way, but I had, in the sense of, like, that had crossed my mind over the past few weeks, but, like, you helped really anchor that and seeing that on multiple levels, right? Because there's the accountability of, like, if I'm going to be, I guess, if I'm going to be wearing these shirts that have certain messages and speaking about what they mean to me, then I better better be living them out as best as I can.
As best as you can. Yeah, I mean, we're human. So, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like, words matter, and I don't know. Yeah. What,
Well, I dig that, man. And
yeah, go ahead.
well, I wanted to share actually about like the struggle around stepping into sharing, because I mean, you touched on it. I'm sure you have your experience, which maybe you're open to sharing as well.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But I know, like on Facebook, I've been more passive in the past about sharing my life, and I think deep down I've had a lot of like shame and fear that if I were to really like speak my truth and share myself, that I would like, it almost felt on some subconscious like irrational thing, like I was gonna, like I would die. That's like the fear, like the boogeyman in the closet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because from a very objective perspective, it's not that big of a deal at all. It's like people are doing it all the time, and it's not like I'm reaching tons and tons of people. But even within my small community on Facebook, there was something that felt just really daunting about stepping into that unknown and kind of bringing more authenticity through and being seen, like putting my words out there into the world.
Yeah.
And so I just want to speak to that because I think I have a sense that maybe a lot of people struggle with that. And because social media has become such a big part of our lives, especially now with like our current situation, I just want to like own my struggle around doing these videos and how it's scary. And it's a big deal in a way to like step out and say like, here I am, and this is what I think, and this is how I feel.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone else on your, listens to your podcast that like has either gone through that and broke through it, like, fuck yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
And if people like want to share more of themselves but struggle with it, like know that you're not alone, and that it's, I guess the last thing I'll say is like, some way it's like the boogeyman isn't real, because I know the more videos I've done, I'm like, wow, I've been like holding back my love and my like what I want to so badly share more deeply with the world. I've been holding it back out of the fear of this boogeyman in the closet, and like as I will actually venture into the closet, I'm like, he's not there.
Yeah. It's a real thing, man. Like, you're not alone. Yeah, no, I mean, kind of the same for me. And I feel like I've gradually and continually opened up about me, and it's something I've kind of forced myself to do a little bit more of. I think I probably mentioned it to you at least. I think I did the last time we were on the podcast maybe, but a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Vaynerchuk. And him kind of, a lot of his posts are very challenging with, I don't know, just like, who cares what other people think? And for me, I think it's the insecurity. It's an insecurity for sure of posting things straight up. To be honest, I mean, I've planned to make videos, short videos, kind of ask people and talk to different strangers and random people in the streets, just kind of random questions, along the same lines of storytelling and some of the same questions we ask on the podcast, and make short little videos. And again, I know all the right answers, right? I know all the, like, well, you're going to have some people that are going to be assholes. You're going to have some people that are going to blow you off, that are going to look at you. I know all that. Like, am I afraid of it? Not really. Am I afraid of it? I'm terrified of it. Like deep down, I'm like, I'm terrified of it. And it's not doing it. It's taking the first step sometimes. And,
totally.
It's like anything. Once you get enough reps, you're an athlete growing up, and you learn things through repetition and through practice and through doing it and doing it and doing it. And, I mean, I find myself making all the excuses not to post a video, not to post something in general, whether it's, oh, look at my Instagram, I've got this nicely curated like pattern going where I take a picture and put a quote after it, and it's like, well, I don't want to mess that up, or I don't know, like you can come up with 1,000 different things, right, of, oh, well, you know, I've got other things to do today, or, well, maybe tomorrow, or I don't know, like,
I could totally agree, man. The list goes on, and it probably has unique little, you know, differences, nuances for each of us, but I think some of the core beliefs and resistance are probably very, very similar.
Yeah. I also have this, you know, on a more vulnerable note, I look at some of that, because I'm the same way. My personal Facebook, I post very little on my personal Facebook. Same with my personal Instagram, like all that. I'm kind of a little more guarded, a little more to myself as well. And I don't know exactly why, but I've had some reflections on this in recent, I don't know, months, weeks, years, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting when you see other people post things and the thoughts that go through your head. And I think that, at least for myself, that judgment that I project onto other people, I see as the potential judgment that other people are going to say about me. And I care about that more than I want to, and more than I should. And so I think sometimes that's like that's I don't want to have to defend myself. Does that make sense? Like I don't need to defend myself, but like I'm afraid that people are going to corner me and put me in that, like put me into that situation where I have to defend myself. And I don't know. That's something for me. Even with CrazyFaceUno, of posting my own thoughts and feelings, and I don't know. It's interesting.
No, man, I appreciate you like sharing that place in yourself that, you know, judges others and deep down like is judging you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I so relate to that, dude. I mean, at least am I getting you right there? Did I catch that the way you meant it?
Yep.
No, dude, I'm with you. I mean, I definitely like what you just said, you know, it verbatim. I feel that and have felt that, you know, and I think it's very human, dude. And I mean, some of this stuff I feel like, you know, like has been passed down through the generations of like,
sure,
you know, you don't step out of line and speak outside the tribe or the collective council, you know, like how dare you? Who do you think you are to think you can like have your own voice?
Yeah. Is that our age?
And so,
is that our like our age group? I mean, we're not too much different between the two of us. Because sometimes I feel like, you know, we didn't grow up in that world where we're like constantly sharing our thoughts and feelings and opinions and, you know, all those different things. And, you know, the younger generation, they are. You know, I would say the Gen Z, millennial generation, it's like the TikTok world, which I know you're familiar with at least a little bit. You know, it's like it produces this comfortability, this comfort around like making these videos, putting yourself out there, and this I don't know, that sense.
I don't know, though. I question that, brother.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right on one hand, but I would bet that the younger generation is struggling with the same thing deep down, dude.
Yeah, like it's
you
like
know,
almost an innate thing within us a little bit.
I think so. I think it's scary to be seen, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. I'll speak for myself. It's scary to be seen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And, I'm with you. And maybe that's why I don't post on my personal Facebook so much. You know, it's like I can hide behind quote CrazyFaceUno if I post something or, you know, whatever. But it's very much me if it's not through my like quote business platform. You know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's it's cool that you're touching that. Like, what what do you want to post on your Facebook that you're not because you have this resistance?
Man, this is why I love you, Noah, because you always know the questions to ask, like the follow-up question. Like that's like such a good follow-up question. You're hearing me, you're listening, and then you're like, you've got this follow-up question. Man, I'm telling you, this is why I love you. What am I afraid to post? I just don't think, I don't know, because I think I've suppressed it for so long. Like sometimes I don't even know. Like I tried to, here's an example. Twitter kind of lends itself a little bit more towards just free thought, free thinking. And,
Yep.
You have a question and you're like, do it. I stop my wife. I walk into the office where she's working at home, multiple times throughout the day just to say something like random. A thought, an idea, whatever it is, or we'll stop in the middle of a show and we're watching Netflix or something and stop and be like, oh, isn't that really interesting how people do blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I think that's the kind of thing that I wish, and it's not even a comfort. Sometimes I just don't even think about posting it, which I don't think anything's wrong with that either. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't come natural maybe. There's also like this perfectionistic thing, like, well, is that the right thing? Should I post that? Is that good enough? Like, is that video quality? Like, well, I can't make a video right now. I don't have the best camera, or like I want people to think that it's, whatever. So I go through all those types of things as well. And then you see, it doesn't really matter because you see everything from celebrities with shitty video to shitty pictures to whatever. And it's not about that necessarily, I don't know.
Oh, totally.
That was just a mind dump. I just word vomited all over the place. Sorry.
It's cool, man. I at least my experience, you seem to process externally.
Very much so.
and I do too, and I know because we've had a relationship and had many conversations. Like I totally get that, and it's fun. I am kind of riding with you shotgun when you're doing that and just following your thread. Yeah. And my sense, man, is like there's two things that come to mind. One is like just staying with that question and continuing to follow the thread, because like we could do that now, but it would probably it depends on how deep we go. But like
like
the seven, I need to be.
Do you do the like 7 layers deep or whatever in real estate? Like the why?
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that. And I've done it once on myself. And it's very, very much the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like following that, like what happens if you're not a perfectionist? Like what happens if it's not perfect?
Right.
And you just follow that. And then until you get more clarity of like, oh, the deep fear or belief is this.
Yeah.
So that may be something to, experiment with if you feel called. And then the other is like noticing when you're wanting to post something and then actually honoring that in you, that creative, authentic energy. And even if you don't post, like giving that more of your love and appreciation.
Yeah. Even like exploring the creativity of it or what it might look like.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Without having to like, okay, like in order for that creativity to be honored, I have to like put it out there and like, just touching it and appreciating it so that you're giving it more of your attention may give you more connection to it. Because ultimately I think that's a big part of what, for me, like creating is about. There's the one piece of being seen and serving others, but there's another part of like, I want to be seen by others, but on a deeper level, it's like, I want to see myself. I want to see these places in myself that I've been holding back. And the more I'm willing to create and share, the more I can actually see and know myself, which kind of ties back to that, like what you were talking about earlier of like, I'm just trying to like kind of find like, who am I, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it totally does. It totally is. It's a constant reflection of the self for sure and everything. And this is the thing I talk to my wife a lot about. I'm like, man, every time you like when you post something, you're saying something, right? Whether you are cognizant of it or not, like there's something you're wanting from the individual viewing it. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. Yeah.
And this really rears its head. I follow just a lot of random people on Instagram and
Yep.
a lot of people from Florida and whatnot. And sometimes, you know, it goes both directions, both genders, male, female, goes around the board. But at least for myself, you know, you see a picture of this is my own reflection here for people listening. But if I see a lady with a lot being revealed of their body and of themselves, and I go, wow, that picture's beautiful. I can't like it because I don't know what it says. For me to like that, is it like I'm liking it because of this? Again, I'm overthinking it the whole way through, potentially. But I just also like, what do you? This is the question I always ask when I see those. I'm like, what do you want? Do you just want the attention? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. But like, you're saying something. You're wanting someone. What does it say when someone likes it? What does it say to that individual? Because I think that each of us are different in how we receive that and what we're asking and what we want from, you know, from what we're posting or from what we're saying, from what we're doing, you know, and this carries over not just on social media, but into our life. But it definitely is a like, it's funny because we've talked about this as being like posting things feels scary, but it's also sometimes it's like still you're behind that mask. So sometimes you'd post things that you would never do, you know, actually in person. So that like kind of contradicts each other a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that like when we post things, it says something, and you know, like what are you trying to get out of that post or that picture or that message or whatever it is?
Like the actual creator or the poster.
Yeah. And it could be completely, you know, honest and genuine and real and out of good intentions. And it could be, you know, my wife and I have talked about this, like, well, maybe she's proud of herself. Sure.
Yeah.
You know, she should be proud of herself. She looks great, you know, like, not saying that, but like, and you could switch it, you know.
I hear
like,
you, man, for sure.
It's just interesting. Like I think of it even in myself of what I post, you know. Well, what am I, if I post an opinion about something, I'm wanting a response. Am I just wanting an echo chamber? Am I wanting a conversation? Am I wanting a debate? Am I wanting an argument? Like, what am I wanting? You know, like what is it? Am I just trying to get information out? Am I trying to persuade someone, open someone's mind? All of those things. Do I even need to think about that? You know, I mean, the whole gamut, right?
No, I think that's awesome, brother. And I think that's one of your strengths.
Feels like a weakness.
You know, is that you're very Well, I mean, I think that's where, like, around this particular topic, like, I feel like your edge might be to just fucking do it. Or can I swear on here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Just do it and then, like, learn in retrospect, like learn through the experience, because I think you have a very developed muscle when it comes to self-reflection and kind of tracking your thoughts and emotions. But I'm guessing there may be some ways to flex the muscle of just like kind of putting yourself out there and maybe even making like quote unquote mistakes, which was one of the shirts, right?
Yeah.
But like learning more quickly because you're actually like, oh, okay, you're getting feedback. I mean, that's one of the cool things about social media.
Yeah,
think about it, is there's this fabric of all these people that serve as like mirrors for our own consciousness and who we are. And like if we're willing to put ourselves out there, we're going to get reflections, and that can give us a lot more information that otherwise we may not get. And it also people might be willing to communicate a little differently than they would in person, just because it's a different channel of communication, for better or worse, you know?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
and I also, like, one of the things that got brought up is, you know, like, in doing this T-shirt thing, like, I can totally acknowledge the part of me that is kind of like thinks he's a wise dude and like wants to share with others and has unique perspectives and like, you know, is this evolved guy. Like that's, I think, a part of the self-image that I've built. Like, and the cool thing is, I think in some ways there's some genuine truth in that. Like the more I'm willing to honor and love myself, I'm like, well, I do have some really valuable qualities that I've developed. But I also think, like, through this experience, I was like, wow, there's all these unmet needs that I had that I was projecting onto other people on social media. And the reality is like, I want to be seen. I want people to admire me. I want people to support me. Right. And instead of like me being more vulnerable and actually asking for that, like my road there was like, okay, I'm going to share some ways that I might be able to help people as they're going through this difficult time. Yeah. And so it's just cool to like learn through experiences. And I think tying it back to this T-shirt experiment, like in 2 weeks, I think I was able to learn maybe what I've learned in 2 years of my life at different phases because I was willing to try things and experiment more than I have been in the past. Yeah.
And this is, you know, some of what you talked about was your most recent post. You kind of reflected on some of those in your writing, you know, like the caption of your video, and you talked about it a little bit in your video too. And I thought it was pretty spot on as well. I recognize a lot of that. Obviously, there's some similarities between some of the reflections that you've had and some of the things that I've reflected over the last, you know, several months. But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, cool.
I think it's interesting that you've learned so much in such a short amount of time, you know, in that reflection and thinking about that, and all from, like we've said, all from just kind of stepping out into the unknown, which is also maybe one of your shirts. Let's get into your shirts.
All right, let's do it, dude.
The first one that you posted, I've got them written down here. It's a shirt, and if you don't mind, I'll tag you in the posts or whatever whenever we post this podcast, so people can kind of go check things out and check out your shirts and check out your videos. But it goes: dream more, complain less, listen more, argue less, hope more, talk less, love more, fear less, relax more, worry less, believe more, doubt less, play more, work less.
Totally.
It was a solid one to start off with. Yeah. Yep. Nailed it.
Well, I'm actually wearing it today.
Oh, perfect.
Because, you know, I've been through all 13 shirts. Nice. And I'm like, time to start over during the quarantine or so I've got it on. And this one just felt fitting for, like, you know, we had just started the shelter in place. Yeah. In the Bay Area. And I'm like, dude, how do I want to hold, like, what type of frame do I want to hold this situation in? And that this shirt had quite a few different things, and I'm like, yes, I want that. I want those things. And, you know, tying it back into the larger opportunity that this situation is inviting, is like, how do I actually want to reorient my life, and what's the story or the, like, what do I want my life to look like as I move forward? And I feel like all these things are things that I want to embody, you know? And the first one, even like dream more, I feel like, I don't know, I'm 37 years old, and it's just easy to kind of fall into like dreams are bullshit, and, you know, they're for the special people that make it, or that are able to, like, you know, they just have the wind at their back, and like, I just need to be a responsible dad now. And in some ways, like, there's some truth in those things, but it's like, no, like, I'm not giving up on dreaming and dreaming the type of life that my heart truly wants, and being willing to ask the question over and over, like, what is my heart's true vision for my life, and listening for guidance, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And the dream thing of, like, do you feel like it's like, to be the dreamer is almost like a selfish act?
You know, this is where it gets interesting, man. Like, I think it's a great, great question. Sometimes I feel like if we were to reset, which maybe this is a reset, like, and we were able to clear our conditioning and our operating systems, like the patterns, you know, mental, emotional patterns we've had, I would, like, say everyone should be selfish. Everyone should focus on, not from a base way, and this is where I think it gets tricky, because without maturity on some level, I think that can get twisted into a whole, like, hedonistic free-for-all, right?
Yep.
But, like, I think if we really are selfish from our hearts, like, ultimately the heart's not selfish. You know, it is the source of unity and of our pure, I think, like, pure soul's offering. And I think
an unconditional,
be selfish with that. Yeah, you go ahead, brother.
Oh, I just said an unconditional, you know, component. It's without conditions, the heart, you know.
Yeah, that's a beauty. And using that word, it's like unconditional selfishness.
Yeah.
Maybe I've never thought of it that way, because it's kind of paradoxical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I struggle with selfishness, and I think it's much more complicated than the answer that I give, like, my response. Because I mean, I have, like, a wife and a son and a family, and, like, but so if I'm not showing up and taking into account others, I mean, I think that's one form of selfishness that can be destructive or have a negative impact. But I also think, like, our culture somehow has, there's something about selfishness, and I've struggled with it. I'm not even going to put it on others. Like, I've struggled with being like, what if I give myself permission to truly have the life that I dream of, even if my dream's not crystal clear, but I just keep giving myself permission? Like, that feels, a part of me feels like that's selfish. And, like, how dare you think you can live like that way? Who do you think you are, you know?
Yeah. Which kind of stems back for me of who am I, you know? Like, I know I'm the leader I'm looking for, but who am I? You know, and it's that same feeling, that same, like, who am I to be that person? And even with the selfishness idea, dude, if we took care of ourselves, like, I think this is a flip that's happened, and I don't know when it happened, but it's been in, you know, recent years. But this, at least in the last several years, we've had a lot of finger pointing, you know, this blaming other people, this, like, you know, this division, this polarizing, you know, debates and conversations, and it's usually pointing at somebody else. And I think that in what you're kind of saying, it's almost like, hey, if you would just take care of yourself, none of that would really matter.
Totally.
And I think that that's where the and even if we bring it back to COVID-19, you know, if you act selfishly about not getting the virus, you immediately help other people.
Perfect example, dude.
So, I mean, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and I think that there's been a shift, you know, in whatever the society potentially. I've noticed this in myself, honestly, since I left Invisible Children, where I started seeing, like, man, I've got to start sticking up for myself, you know? If I don't, people are going to, you know, I just get to go along with what other people want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's also just something that's kind of within me. Maybe it's my upbringing and, my religious background and me being like, I think that really messed with my head growing up when I was like, oh, I've just gone along with everything I've been taught my entire life up until this day. And now I get to choose
Yep.
and kind of deconstruct my life and reconstruct my life in the way that I see it, the way that I believe it. And I don't know. So there's a few
That's
different
awesome, man.
pieces to that, but
Yeah. Well, I think it's power. I mean, it's interesting, the piece that came up. I mean, I know we share on some level, and like having, coming from like families that have lineages of Christianity.
yeah.
And I mean, I feel like some of those patterns are just super deep, because like the church has been part of our recent history for, the past couple thousand years. And like, that structure has been a power structure, and to challenge those deep beliefs that like, not all of them, of course, come from church, but like that one. And, my wife and I talk about this as well, because she came from a Christian family that, had an impact on her. Yeah. And I think there's certainly positives that come from the
100%.
formations and the,
Yeah.
And then there's also some things that, unchallenged may not be serving me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just, it came up as you were talking about that, because I think some of those like deep structures inside of us have been, carried on. Like back in the day, if you challenged the church, your head was going to be on a stake,
Yeah. Yep. I think that it's interesting, because I think that good, man, I'm digging myself into a hole here, but I think that a lot of, I don't know. I don't even know. Yeah, see, here we go. I think good is a byproduct, can be a byproduct of, the conservative Christian church, or just the Christian church, evangelical, whatever,
Yeah.
It's loaded when you say that, because there's different, pieces to that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with people believing what they want to believe. I don't. I think if that's what's going to make you the better person, and you get to be the best version of yourself because of your religious views and what that gives you, then please, by all means, do that. Participate in that. This is where it, me saying that is like counterintuitive to the system of the Christian church, what it's founded on, what it believes, what it lives out, So anybody that you talk to, it's hard to have that conversation or make that statement to someone that is fully immersed into the Christian church, because they look at you and they're like, no, like you don't get it.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it personally, and I think that for myself, that's not what I need right now, at least, and it's not the part of my life that's missing. It's I don't know, but I think that there is good.
That's
I think
awesome,
you're
man.
completely correct. I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily, if that's what's making the world and yourself better because of it. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's. I think the fact that you've been willing to trust yourself and follow your own truth
Yeah.
is super. It kind of ties back into what we're talking about around like unconditional selfishness.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful thing. And
Right.
my sense is what, Jesus, was teaching was a way of living in that way, where we trust our deep connection with God or the Holy Spirit, and actually allow that wisdom to inform our lives and our actions and our reflections. And so everyone's got different takes on it, and certainly, I think I've had a different experience with Christianity than even you did, based on we all do, but yeah, man, I think I remember the last podcast when you shared that you were what you've been going through around kind of finding your way. I really respect that, and I think I got your back on that continued journey.
Yeah, and it is that. It is very much that. And this is what, like, if you do, find yourself firmly planted in the Christian church and the Christian beliefs, that's the beauty of life, right? Is that, like, man, it's not, this is what Christianity kind of speaks. It's like, it's God's timing. It's God's thing. Like, man, I'm not saying maybe I'll go back to my faith, that I grew up with at some point in time. Maybe, that experience is something that I'm yet to have, but right now that's not where I'm at. And I don't have the same beliefs, and that's okay for me. And it should be okay for you as well. It doesn't matter what your religious belief is. And as long as I'm seeking to be the best version of myself and the best person that I can be, what else do you want from me? And that's my take on it.
Yeah. That's great, man.
Dude, let's move on to t-shirt number 2. It is a picture of your shirt that has yesterday scratched out, now in big, bold capital letters, and tomorrow's marked out. And I just wrote down kind of what you said about that, because it's kind of a harder one to write out, as a quote. But you just said how to ground in the quote now and release fear, anxiety, and other difficult emotions. And that was like a question you kind of like raised.
Yeah, so I mean, that one, to me, that day, I felt personally that I felt a lot of fear inside myself. And I also, my take is, like, especially for folks that are sensitive, and I consider myself, kind of empathic in the sense of, like, I feel like I can feel the environment around me.
Yeah.
And I think we're all doing that, whether we're paying attention to it or not. And there was, like, a lot of waves of fear moving through the collective. And so I felt like it was really important to share the importance of, like, being in the now as an anchor, and being able to breathe, to access to get in touch with our bodies, the felt sense of our body, and our breath, in order to allow that energy of fear or anxiety to actually move through and not get stuck. Because I know, for me, when it gets stuck, then I start going on fear-based thinking trips. And that completely, then I'm almost like in a virtual reality where I'm, looking at the demise of my life or whatever I fear, versus actually being present with what's actually going on in front of me. And so, it was a cool shirt to wear, and it's an ongoing practice of how to stay in reality and not go off on some mind trip.
Yeah, that reminded me, and I know that you, at least you have in the past, you've been someone who practices meditation, and that act of self-help and whatever, self-care or whatever. But it's that whole concept of, when you're meditating, thoughts are going to pop into your brain, and that's okay. It's whether you allow it to take over, or you say, yep, I see you, and you let it go. And it's the same concept in some ways of fear and anxiety and difficult things that kind of stick with you. It's recognizing that, say, like, I see it, it's real. You don't have to diminish the feelings, but you get to choose how they affect you, how they continue to alter your mind, and in a sense.
That's awesome, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. And often, I know for me, like with fear, it's sometimes one of the more challenging ones to detach from.
Yeah. Because we all respond so different to it as well.
Exactly. And I think that's where, meditation can be really valuable, because you can start to track these things, like how we respond to different emotions, and then understand our own kind of, makeup around that. And that way, as those things come up, there's the ability to, like you're saying, to maybe make different choices instead of letting the emotion start kind of dictating how I experience things.
Yeah.
So, but fear, man, is like, for me, I just want to name, like, I grew up in a house where, it's weird, there was a lot of fear in my family.
Same.
And, yeah, it's cool. I didn't know that, dude. And I mean, maybe it's pretty common, but I think, like,
it may be different, between the two of us, but I very much feel that as well. I mean, worry, anxiety, very similar things, but that's very much a thing that I grew up still do. I mean, that's like part of my family.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good that you're aware of that, man. And I mean, I think it's probably pretty common for a lot. I mean, I think it's a fundamental energy, right? But I think the interesting thing is, like, how do we relate to it? And my family definitely, like, denied it. And it wasn't okay to be afraid. Like, it wasn't really talked about. But at the same time, there was so much fear.
Yeah.
And so that was really confusing for my system, I think, for most of my life. God, my dog, if you're hearing barking, he's just a wild man during this.
No worries. It's pretty faint in the background.
Fundamentally, like, what was that?
It's pretty faint. It's not super loud and on this end, so you're good. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. He's a good dog. He just has his one character defect is excessive barking.
We've all got something, right?
Oh, totally, bro. Totally. Yeah, I guess the biggest piece, like, learning to accept fear and to actually to like forgive myself for the ways that I've related to fear and the shame that I've had about being afraid has been really healing in my life, and I'm continuing to learn how to do that. Because the like I said, the blueprint I got is, like, it's not really okay to be afraid. Like, and fear is bad. And it's like, whoa, that's a pretty gnarly program to work with, because then you have this thing and a lot of it, but you're not supposed to have it.
Yeah.
And you can't talk about it.
And what do you do with it? Yeah, like, exactly. Well, and I think this kind of spills into maybe t-shirt number 3 a little bit too. It goes believe in yourself, and then the letters BE, so B is capitalized, and YOU is capitalized, like BU, believe in yourself. I think it ties in with fear a little bit. Would you agree?
100%, man. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. What do you notice?
The first thing I think of is, I read into this a little bit different. Recently I feel like there's always doubt that kind of creeps in, and whether that's fear, whether that's, anxiety, whatever that looks like, of what you're capable of, what you're able to do. I mean, it goes along with this whole conversation we've been having throughout this, the last 68 minutes of that we, that like insecurity of whatever you're doing, right? You even presented to me early on, I am the leader I'm looking for, to look in the mirror and say that. And it's that believe in yourself, be you, and I think that's a greater answer to that question. I am the leader I'm looking for, and that thought, that experiment, or that, whatever, but to believe in yourself, to be you. If I believe in myself and I am myself, if I become the leader, then I have everything to be proud of and nothing, like it was a natural trajectory of my actions. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I'm tracking with you. It's like, it's almost like I'm hearing like it's foundational.
Yeah. But it's easier said than done.
100, dude, I completely agree, man.
But
that's
I think,
why I thought this shirt
go on.
was so cool.
Yeah.
It's like, it's multifaceted, and then like it's believe in yourself, and then like the way that it's worded, it says be you.
Yeah.
Because I think they're like completely linked.
Yeah.
And it's also something that takes a lot of love and courage to do for all of us.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's really easy to say, to believe in yourself, but I don't know. It's perspective in some ways too. Like we've had conversations and about us being, quote, peers or equals in a sense, and it's just funny because like I look up to you, Noah, and it's just when we don't think about the people that look at us, or that do respect what we have to say or what we do, like I believe in you, Noah, like you posting those videos, it's like, oh, you're somebody that I respect. What's he have to say? I want to hear what you have to say, because I think that you're a very wise man. I think you carry a lot of wisdom. You carry a lot of insight, and your thoughts provoke a lot of, positivity in my life, just to think about life, but for me, it's like, I actually made Post-it notes for my wife a month ago or so, and it's like, I believe in you is what I put on her mirror in the morning, and then I tucked away in her computer, now it's time for you to believe in you. And it's that same concept, like, man, you have everything it takes, right? Like, you are complete. You are great. Now just believe in yourself, right? Like, stop second guessing yourself. And, the next couple T-shirts really tie in really well with all of what we're saying. Can I go ahead and say them? Is that cool?
Yeah, I'd love to just respond briefly.
Yeah, go for it.
First off, thank you for your belief in me, or for sharing that.
Yeah.
Like, I really value. I feel like in a practice I'm learning is to like actually really receive when someone appreciates me, and I feel fortunate to be able to like offer, knowing that with the way that I live my life, or the things that I have to say are that you feel like they're useful to you.
Yeah. And
I'm grateful that you see me that way. It gives me more, like, in a way, trust in myself. Interestingly, it's kind of bringing it back to that mirroring thing I talked about. Like when we get reflections from people, because I trust you, and I have a lot of love for you and respect for you, and so when I know that like someone that I value as a reflection in my life, or as to hold me accountable and make me better, is saying like, hey dude, like, thank you for what you bring to the table. Like, I think that's it's something to really value. And then dude, the piece is, you're at, like, what you did for your wife is like huge, because I think that really hit home for me with this whole thing, is like realizing that like at the end of the day, there's all these people that love me and that have my back and that have proved it over and over again. But like, if on a fundamental level I don't have my back, it doesn't really, like, it's not that it doesn't matter that other people don't, but it's like, I'm not going to, the engine inside of me that actually is going to like propel me forward is not going to be functioning. Like, I've got to turn on the ignition and like drive the car. No one can do that for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a developing that self-belief is just super important.
Right.
And
you can't just turn the key. You can't just turn the key and the radio pops on and the lights flash, turn on and all that, but you can't go anywhere with it till you start the engine.
Exactly. That's a cool way of putting it. So that one I personally will continue to experiment with, because I feel like there's ways I don't believe in myself, and not only does that not serve me, but it doesn't allow my gifts to be offered to the world. And then so it's like self-belief, I just feel like, is, even though it's so cheesy in a way, like the believe, achieve, succeed thing, it's like
I'm with you.
But there's something to it,
It totally is. It feels so cheesy. I mean, let's be honest. Every one of your t-shirts are true, but they also feel a little cheesy sometimes too. But when you look at them through a deeper lens, you're like, dang, they're right. Like, dang it.
That's so true, right? It's almost like we've heard these things so many times.
Of course.
That it's easy to just go, oh yeah, believe in yourself, or you can, or whatever. But if it's that's the cool thing, is to really take it in and think about it. And that was what was one of the most powerful things for me. It was when I'd wear the shirt each day, I was like, what does this mean to me? And as I go on my run, or as I be walking river around the neighborhood, or I'm thinking what does that really mean to believe in myself? And and reflecting on it and having new insights come through, instead of, oh yeah, believe in yourself. Yeah, I've seen that 1,000 times.
Yeah. And even to go, it's almost selfish not to believe in yourself. It's in a negative way.
That's powerful.
You know what I mean? To not believe in yourself, you're doing the world a disservice, because what you have, what your value is, and what you bring to the table is valuable and is worth and is meaningful.
I so dig that, bro. And it's interesting, one of the things I've been doing recently throughout this process is and especially in the last few days, is forgiving myself for the ways that I've kept myself stuck and held myself back.
Yeah.
Because on that deeper level, there's the part of me that knows that I've been withholding love from, not only from myself, but from the world. And there's a part of me that's regrets, and it's essentially I need to forgive myself in order to make peace with that place in me, because I've been doing that so long.
Yeah. That's one that stings for me a little bit, is forgiving myself, just loving myself in general. I don't know. That's another one that's self-sabotaging. I don't know. It's that. I don't know. I mean, I don't really love myself, Noah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't forgiven myself, and therefore, I don't know. I guess I think this is also one of those things, I mentioned before, of what it, when you post something, what it says about you. And I think this is more a self-reflection, or maybe a mirror of myself in some ways, of being man, I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how else. I don't know how to unpack that, really. I mean, my wife and I have had conversations about this. I'm I just don't really I beat myself up a lot, and I'm my own worst critic or whatever. And but that, it's not good. It's not healthy. But I don't know. Of all of myself, we've talked about it. I'm a very self-reflective person. I'm a very I critique myself. Very introspective. I know myself very well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know maybe even how to forgive myself for things that I don't even know if I know what those things are, even as self-reflective as I am, of what I need to forgive myself for. To enable myself to love myself more, or at all. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I think that's really honest of you. And I mean, at the base of all this, like, I think, like, we're talking about life, and that to me is the journey we're on. You know, it's like, how do we truly love ourselves, period. And because at the end of the day, I think the more I love myself, I'm not loving Noah, the individual, even though I am. He's certainly, like, he's kind of the avatar, you know, or like the character.
Yeah.
But, like, at the core, I'm learning to love, or almost, like, bring my mind into my heart.
Yeah.
And the more I can do that, love myself, like, then I can be an instrument for love, to love everyone, you know. And that's not from the Pollyanna perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get upset, or, you know, like, but I feel like it's a journey we're all on. And, you know, I have been trying to forgive myself for, like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just starting to taste forgiveness, like, for myself, where I'm like, you know what, like, I don't want to do the self-criticism anymore. Like, it just doesn't serve me, you know, like, it doesn't serve how I am as a dad. It's just like, and so I think we all find our way, you know, and I love that you're willing to say, hey, I struggle with this, because I mean, to me, that's you being honest will continue to move you closer to making peace with yourself, you know?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because this is the question that's sitting in my head right now, is what does it look like to love yourself? How do you do that? What does that even mean, to love yourself? Does that make sense? Because, like, I agree with you. Like, if I can't love myself, how do I love other people? And, you know, like, it's a real question.
It's awesome. Dude, I love it.
But, like, I just don't even know what that
wife,
looks like. I literally have no idea what that looks like. It for me, it isn't looking myself in the mirror and going, I love you. I'm not going to do that, you know, and maybe I need to practice that every morning. I've thought about it, you know, of standing there in the mirror and being like, love you, man, you know. And would it fuck with my head a little bit in a good way? Yeah, probably. But I don't know, like, that's all rainbows and butterflies and sprinkles and sparkles and glitter. I don't know, for me. And that doesn't do much for me. I just don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it means.
Well, that's a huge question.
Let me ask you this before we get going into it. We're at the 82nd minute. Are you on a time crunch? Do you have time restrictions?
You know, I do, in the sense that I'm putting my son down for a nap.
Okay.
So I'll probably have like 5 more minutes.
Cool. Well, let's just continue on with this thought. We'll close it out, and then maybe we can have you back on and finish those T-shirts, because we chatted and we didn't get through as many of those as maybe we could have.
Yeah, no, it's all good, dude. I feel like, you know, this is it's been rad to just kind of, you know, do what we do, just dance.
Yeah, I love it.
Flow of things. And you know, I don't. There's a couple things to come to mind. I'm learning how to love myself, and I don't. It's tough. It's like, how do you? Well, I don't know. I don't want to say that. For me, it's tough. Maybe for some people it isn't. You know. But I think one thing that's been helpful is learning to see the ways that I don't love myself.
Yeah, okay.
And often a lot of that boils down, like, I feel like there's a connection between emotions, thinking, and behavior. And emotions, like places in me that I have not been willing to feel the hurt or pain from my past that has not been resolved, those will often create, like, stories in my mind that are really critical. And then those critical stories, emotions and stories often create behaviors that I don't feel good about, that I don't feel like align with the highest version of myself, which not only would serve me, but others, right? If I was truly loving myself.
Yeah.
And so I think it's investigating all of those, like for me, making space for the emotions that are really hard or that I push away, and sometimes not even knowing why I have them, but just still doing my best to give them love and to feel them. And then the stories where I beat myself up and I just, a lot of them are based in you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not, and just seeing like, dude, not cool. Like at the end of the day, starting to create boundaries with those voices and actually saying like, you're not welcome in my world anymore. So I'm going to escort you out. And if you don't cooperate, like, then I'm like not going to be as civil as I am right now.
Yeah.
And so it's like an ongoing practice of like basically quarantining those voices and saying you're not welcome in my space anymore because you're not serving how I want to love myself.
Yeah.
And then the last is on a behavioral level, noticing like the behaviors that aren't in service, and then doing my best to forgive myself for those things, but also tracking how those behaviors relate to the way I talk to myself and the way I feel like these emotions, and being willing to make an effort to change those behaviors because I feel like they all kind of fit together,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So, but I at the end of the day, man, I think we're all learning how to do that. And some people have gotten really good at it. And who knows, maybe they had really good karma or came from very loving families or whatever. And like, I think that's the journey we're on. And I feel fortunate to have a lot of people that support me and friendships with people like you. And that, I think that makes it a lot easier when other people are being loving to us. It's kind of like, oh, wow, like maybe there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I can love myself,
Yeah. No, I agree. And I hear the biggest thing you said sticks out to me is kind of just like denouncing the bad that your mind plays tricks with you. Like I totally recognize that with me of like the whole, you're not good enough. You're not enough. You're not, whatever that I recognize that in myself of,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It goes back to, I think for me in some ways it's defining what success looks like in my own life, and I don't know how to define that, and it's something that I haven't spent the time to kind of reflect and really figure out what that looks like to me, because I don't feel successful, though I have so many things to be grateful for and to look at and to say are successes. I don't know what it's a blind target, I'm closing my eyes and aiming for a target because I don't even know what the target looks like for success.
Well, I think you're not alone in that, brother.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you're asking the questions is really powerful.
Step in the right direction, huh?
Totally.
Yeah.
And like that's why it's interesting. Like I feel like forgiveness is a gateway to self-love. And even not knowing, like I feel like I acknowledge that I am learning how to forgive.
Yeah.
Especially myself. And that to me is like, it's okay to be learning and to not know what life is about or who we are or what we value. Like I feel like, the more we can be in that space of not knowing and of genuine innocence and curiosity, the more guidance can actually come through and the more interesting life can become, and I think my son's really teaching me that is like, dude doesn't even know what success is. He's like, pooping in his diaper or going like kicking a soccer ball and just like falling on his face. That's successful because he's just fully in it. He hasn't developed that like extra layer that judges himself yet,
Totally. Peter, Noah, my friend.
What? Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dude, I'm grateful to be on, brother, and I love you very much. And
likewise, I love you too, man.
Yeah, let's keep in touch, okay?
For sure, definitely. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate it. You all are valuable. I love you.